Right now, there is a hidden number sitting inside a VA file somewhere with your name on it. Not a rumor, not a maybe, but an actual dollar figure calculated under federal law that the government owes you every single month for the rest of your life. Yet, most veterans who served before 1990 will never see a single cent of it. Not because they were denied and not because they don't qualify, but simply because nobody ever sat them down and explained where that money comes from or exactly what to file to get it. I'm about to do exactly that in plain English with no legal jargon starting right now. My name is Dr. Elizabeth Thorne. Quick and honest introduction. At our agency, Smart Retirement, we don't work for the government, and we are not here to sell you a dream. We spend our years digging inside the complex world of retirement tax, Virginia regulations, and federal benefits, reading the fine print so you do not have to. Our mission is to give you straight financial information that helps you keep more of what you've already earned and protect the people who depend on you. So if that's useful to you, hit the subscribe button and give this a like, because we break down exactly this kind of hidden wealth every single week, one benefit or one form at a time. Tell me your state down in the comments, because many of these rules have a local layer on top, and I read every single one. The dangerous pattern I see more than any other in the veteran community isn't fraud, and it isn't laziness. It's honest, careful veterans who filed the right paperwork, accepted the first lowball number the VA handed them, and walked away permanently, leaving hundreds of dollars a month on the table simply because nobody told them the number was wrong. That's the most expensive kind of financial mistake there is, because it's completely invisible. There's no notice. There's no red flag. There's just money that was legally owed to you and never paid month after month, year after year, quietly compounding into tens of thousands of dollars over the course of your lifetime without a single letter ever arriving from Ottawa or Washington to point it out. Let me be straight with you. The VA will never volunteer this extra money to you directly. That isn't a wild conspiracy. It's just how the bureaucracy is built. The system processes what you file. It does not go looking for reasons to increase your monthly check. No employee sitting behind that counter is evaluated on how much extra money they found for you. Their job is to process the paperwork in front of them accurately and move to the next file. Closing the gap between what you're actually owed and what you're receiving has always been the veteran's job, whether or not anyone ever told you that. So let's get specific, because this doesn't apply to just one narrow slice of retirees. If you served before 1990, if you served before 2021, if you were anywhere near the air, the water, the soil, or the chemicals used in any theater of operations during your time in uniform, there is a massive chance your file has never been calculated correctly. The federal law changed, the eligibility changed, and the authorities have zero obligation to call you and tell you that. Everything else hinges on whether your service falls inside one of four specific windows. So let's walk through them. 1962 through 1975 is the Agent Orange window. Serve in Vietnam, in the waters off it, or anywhere herbicides were used or stored during that period. And the law presumes any of more than 20 specific conditions you currently have were caused by that exposure. You don't need to prove it, and you don't need a doctor willing to testify to causation decades later. The statute already did that work for you. That's what presumptive means in official language. The legal connection is built into the law itself, and the VA cannot demand proof of a link that Congress already established. A narrower overlap sits inside that same era, from 1968 through 1971. This covers specific installation bases where chemicals were tested or stored domestically. Serve at one of those named locations during that window, and presumptive eligibility applies even if you never left the continental United States. Next, any service before August 2nd, 1990 falls under the Gulf War presumptive rules. Veterans from that period with medically unexplained chronic conditions, chronic fatigue, functional gastrointestinal disorders, or undiagnosed illnesses that would otherwise be nearly impossible to document may qualify without ever having to build a causal case from scratch. Finally, the most recent and by far the widest window runs through December 31st, 2020. The PACT Act created an entirely new presumptive category for veterans exposed to burn pits, airborne hazards, and toxic particulate matter in Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Djibouti, and other post-9/11 locations. Veterans who were previously turned down because they couldn't prove a respiratory condition or a cancer was connected to their service now have a direct built-in path. Over 20 cancers and dozens of respiratory conditions made that presumptive list, including asthma diagnosed after service, chronic bronchitis, several forms of sinusitis, cancers ranging from gastrointestinal to melanoma. If your claim was denied before 2022, it was decided under rules that no longer exist. The VA won't reopen it for you. You have to file again, and that window is open right now, today. But knowing your window is only step one. The bigger money problem lives somewhere most veterans never think to look. The math itself. The VA does not add your disability percentages together the way common sense says it should. It uses what's called the whole person method. A 30% rating leaves you considered 70% whole. A second condition rated at 30% then applies to that remaining 70%, not the original 100, which produces roughly 21 more points. Combined, that's 51% rounded down to 50%, not 60%. Stretch that across 3 conditions, each rated at 30%, and most veterans assume they've landed at 90%, but the VA's formula actually produces around 66% rounded to 70%. The gap between a 70% rating and a 90% rating using current compensation tables runs well over $500 a month every single month for the rest of your life. Layer presumptive conditions on top of that math, and the picture changes completely. A veteran currently sitting at 70% who never listed 2 additional presumptive conditions may actually be entitled to 90% or even a full 100% tax-free compensation. Secondary conditions count too. A back injury that led to sleep apnea or medication for a rated condition that damaged your stomach lining over the years. These are rateable and almost nobody files them. Pause here for a second. Pull up the official portal and search your service era plus the word presumptive. Match that list against your own medical history, including anything you've never connected to your service in your own mind. Do it now, because the next section builds directly on whatever you find. While you're looking, it's worth registering for the Airborne Hazards and Open Burn Pit Registry if you served in any post-9/11 deployment location. It's a free questionnaire and optional exam that creates a documented medical record tied directly to your exposure, and it flags you for outreach if the presumptive list expands again. It puts your exposure history on paper in a system the authorities already trust, which can shorten the road later if you ever need to establish a connection the presumptive rules don't automatically cover. It also helps to understand roughly what each rating tier is worth because the jump from one level to the next is bigger than most people expect. On current compensation tables, a single veteran with no dependents rated at 10% receives somewhere around $175 a month. At 30%, that climbs to roughly $535. At 50%, it's close to $1,130. At 70%, it's around $1,760. At 90%, it's near $2,240. And at 100%, a single veteran is looking at approximately $3,830 a month, with married veterans receiving additional amounts on top of that base figure. Every 10-point jump in that scale isn't a small adjustment. It's often several $100s a month, which is exactly why getting the combined math right carries so much weight. There's a second benefit sitting entirely on top of whatever rating you land on called Special Monthly Compensation, or SMC. This isn't a variation of your disability percentage. It's a separate additional payment specifically for functional losses the standard rating scale doesn't capture, like the loss of use of a limb, vision, or hearing issues, or needing regular help from another person for daily tasks like bathing, dressing, or managing medication. The tiers run from SMCK at the lower end through SMCT at the top, and the additional monthly amounts range from roughly $115 to well over $9,000 for veterans who need full-time care. The tier most often missed is SMCL for veterans rated at 100% who also need aid and attendance. Current tables put SMCL at around $4,118 a month compared to roughly $3,730 for standard 100% compensation alone. That's an extra $381 every month sitting unclaimed for veterans who technically already qualify. The wording on your claim matters more than most realize. The exact phrases, loss of use and aid and attendance, have to appear in your paperwork. Right? I need help with daily activities instead of those specific terms. And the SMC review may never get triggered at all. The bureaucracy works from the strict language on the page, not from what you meant. 2 more pieces of this deserve mention. Veterans Pension with Aid and Attendance is a separate program meant for wartime veterans with limited income who need help with daily living. And it doesn't require a service-connected condition at all. Furthermore, if a veteran passes away from a service-connected cause, a surviving spouse may qualify for dependency and indemnity compensation, supporting the family long after the veteran is gone. Military retirees carry an extra layer worth flagging too: concurrent retirement and disability pay, known as CRDP, and combat-related special compensation, known as CRSC. Both of these restore the old dollar-for-dollar offset that used to quietly cost retirees real money every year. A higher combined rating also opens doors outside of the monthly check itself, including full or partial property tax exemptions depending on your state, which alone can be worth thousands of dollars a year. This is exactly why I put a free, comprehensive version of all these lines, every cutoff, and every state tax break in a single sheet you can print and keep by the phone down in the description and the pinned comment. It is called the Smart Retirement Money Playbook. Grab that and let us keep going. Because the last piece is the one that quietly costs veterans the most money of all, the date attached to your file. None of the rating math matters if you lose the date attached to it. And that's exactly where most veterans bleed money because they file in the wrong order. The date the government uses to calculate when your payments start, your effective date, isn't the date your claim gets approved, it's the date your claim was received. VA Form 210966, called the Intent to File, locks in your effective date the moment you submit it. From there, you have 12 months to complete and file the full application. Say your claim takes 8 months to process and gets approved at $2,200 a month. You'd receive a retroactive lump sum covering those 8 months, roughly $17,600 paid out the moment you're approved on top of your ongoing monthly check. Skip that form and your effective date becomes whatever day the completed application lands, wiping out thousands in retroactive pay you can never recover. Filling out the intent to file takes about 4 minutes online, requiring just your name, social security number, and date of birth. You're simply placing a legal marker that starts the clock today. Consider Dennis, a retired infantryman now 71 years old. He served from 1969 to 1973 and was rated 70% back in 1991. Nobody told him about the PACT Act changes or that the peripheral neuropathy in both his feet is a recognized presumptive condition under Agent Orange rules. When a professional finally walked through his full file, they found 3 separate items his original rating had never touched, moving his combined rating from 70% to a full 100%. He represents hundreds of thousands of veterans right now receiving less than the law actually owes them. Or look at Ruth, a Navy veteran who served from 1972 to 1976 and was rated 20% decades ago. Last year, she filed her intent to file, documented her hearing loss and hip conditions, and her combined rating moved from 20% to 80% within 8 months, securing a massive retroactive check because she protected her date on day 1. Order matters more than almost anything else. Confirm your service window, cross-reference your medical history against the VA presumptive list, file your Form 210966 intent to file immediately to lock in your date, and then gather your records to submit your primary or supplemental claim using Form 21526 Easy or Form 200995. That money is still sitting in the system, calculated in your name, and owed to you under the law. The only thing standing between you and it is paperwork filed in the right order with the right wording. Secure your date today. Grab the Smart Retirement Money Playbook in the pinned comment below. Keep your tax records clean, and I will see you in the next